Vincent Sinclair checked his watch for the third time in 10 minutes, irritation tightening in his chest. At 42, he'd built his real estate empire on discipline and emotional distance. His ex-wife had called him cold. His business partners called him brilliant. Vincent called himself realistic. Love, he believed, was a distraction, which is why he had resisted when his assistant Emily insisted on setting him up on a blind date. "She's perfect for you," she'd said, "just give her a chance." Now he sat alone in an upscale cafe copyright on a Saturday afternoon, dressed in his best navy suit, staring at a cup of coffee gone cold. And once again, he'd been stood up. The third time in 3 months, he picked up his phone to text Emily that this entire dating experiment was over when a voice drifted across the cafe copyright. "Girls, please sit down. We're waiting for our hot chocolate." Vincent looked up. A woman in her mid-30s stood near a table, trying to wrangle two identical little girls, 5 years old at most, wearing matching red dresses. Their mother looked tired but patient, shopping bags dangling from her arms. One twin spotted Vincent sitting alone and walked straight toward him with fearless curiosity. The other followed instantly, like a mirror image. "Why are you sitting by yourself?" the first girl asked, her blue eyes studying him. "Don't you have any friends?" Vincent blinked. "I was supposed to meet someone. They didn't come." "That's mean," the second twin declared. "You got stood up." "That happened to Mommy once. She cried in the bathroom for a whole hour." Their mother hurried over, flustered and apologetic. "Lily, Violetta, come back here." "I'm so sorry." They're still learning about boundaries. Vincent found himself smiling at something he hadn't done genuinely in a long time. "It's alright, honesty is refreshing." Up close, he noticed the woman was naturally pretty, with kind eyes and light blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. She wore soft jeans and a simple sweater, an understated warmth that felt more real than the polished women he usually met. "I'm Rebecca," she said. "These are my daughters, Lily and Violet." "Vincent Sinclair," he replied, shaking her hand. Rebecca's eyes widened. "As in Sinclair Properties?" He braced himself for the usual shift, people suddenly becoming impressed, strategic. But she just nodded thoughtfully. "You own the building where I work at the Harper Medical Center. You renovated it last year and kept the rent the same. You don't know how much that meant. Most developers would have forced us out." Vincent felt a strange flicker of pride. It seemed right. The center helps families who need it. "I'm a pediatric nurse there," Rebecca said. "If the rent had gone up, we'd have lost funding or shut down." Before he could reply, Lily climbed into the chair across from him like she owned it. Violet slid in beside her. They stared at him with identical seriousness. "You look sad," Violet announced. "Even sadder than when we first saw you." Rebecca tried to pull them away. "Girls, that's a no." "No," Vincent said quietly. "They're right. I am sad, and for some reason, talking to them makes me feel less a broken bar alone." Rebecca hesitated, then slowly sat at his table with her girls. They ordered hot chocolate with extra whipped cream for the twins. Rebecca tried to insist it wasn't necessary, but Vincent waved it off. Over the next hour, something unexpected happened. He forgot to be guarded. The twins told outrageous stories about their toys, their school, and their favorite books. Rebecca talked about her work, her love for helping children, the difficulty of raising twins alone, the exhaustion and joy that shaped her life. There was no calculation in her eyes when she looked at him, no sudden interest in his wealth. She talked to him like he was a person, not a paycheck. "Do they see their father?" Vincent asked before he could stop himself. Rebecca answered quietly, without bitterness. "He left when he found out I was pregnant with twins. Said he wasn't prepared for that kind of responsibility. We haven't heard from him since." Lily and Violet looked up at Vincent, both solemn. "That's why Mommy doesn't date," Lily said. "She says men don't want ladies with kids, but sometimes she looks sad when she thinks we're not watching." Violet whispered. "Girls," Rebecca murmured, embarrassed. Vincent felt something shift inside him, something he hadn't expected, a sharp protectiveness. "Your mother is wrong about one thing," he told the twins gently, though his eyes were on Rebecca. "There are men who would consider it a privilege to be part of this family. The problem isn't you. The problem is that she hasn't met someone worthy yet." Rebecca's eyes glistened, but she blinked the tears away. "You don't know me," she whispered. "My life is messy, complicated. I'm barely holding it together most days. I know you're raising two extraordinary daughters. I know you work in a field that requires compassion. I know you were kind to a stranger who was stood up the same day you were." He paused, surprising himself with his honesty. "And I know that in the 1 hour I've spent with you, I've felt more human than I have in a long time." The twins exchanged excited glances in the secret language of sisters. "Do you want to come to our birthday party?" Lily asked. "Mommy's making pizza," Violet added. "Girls, a broken bar," Rebecca protested. "Mr. Sinclair has better things to do." "What if I don't?" Vincent asked softly. "What if spending a Saturday with people who are real sounds better than spending it alone?" Rebecca stared at him, confused. "Why would you want that?" "Because connection matters more than perfection," he said. "And because I haven't stopped thinking about what your daughters said about you looking sad when you think no one's watching. I'd like to give you a reason not to be." Rebecca's voice broke. "I can't let someone into our lives who will leave when things get hard. The girls have already been through too much." "Then I won't leave," Vincent said simply. "Not when it gets complicated." "That's a promise." "You can't promise that. You don't even know us." "No," he agreed. "But I'd like the chance to." He held out his phone. "Give me your number. Let me come to the birthday party. Let's start there." Two people who have been disappointed before, deciding to be brave again. The girls cheered before Rebecca could answer. After a shaky breath, she gave him her number. The following Saturday, Vincent arrived at Rebecca's small apartment with carefully chosen gifts. The twins squealed and pulled him inside, dragging him into the chaos of 12 5-year-olds. Vincent helped Rebecca make pizza, wiped frosting off small faces, organized games, and laughed more than he had in years. "You're good at this," Rebecca said softly as she watched him with the kids. "I think I like it," he admitted. "I've spent so many years building things that don't matter. I forgot what does." That evening, after the last guest left and the twins collapsed on the couch, they crawled into Vincent's lap. "Are you going to be our friend now?" Violet asked. "I'd like to be more than that," Vincent said, looking at Rebecca. "If your mother will let me." Rebecca sat beside him, her hand trembling in his. "I'm scared," she whispered. "That will be too much for you." Vincent shook his head. "You're not too much." "You're exactly right." She let out a shaky breath. "Okay, let's try. Let's be brave together." And they were. Over the next months, they built something carefully, honestly. Vincent learned to navigate the beautiful chaos of twin life. Rebecca learned to trust that someone could choose her even with all her complications. 6 months later, Vincent proposed not with a ring, but with a note written in crayon by the twins. "Will you be our daddy? We promise to share our toys and only wake you up on weekends." Rebecca cried. Vincent cried. The twins cheered like it was the best day in the world. That night, when the girls were asleep, Vincent held Rebecca close. "I was waiting for someone appropriate that day," he said. "Someone convenient, someone who fit the picture. Instead, I found the people who fit my heart." Rebecca smiled against his chest. "The CEO sat alone," she whispered, "until two little girls climbed onto my chair." Vincent finished softly. "And asked me why I looked so sad." "And now?" she asked. "Now I'm not sad," he said. "Now a broken bar, I'm home." Sometimes disappointment is destiny in disguise. Sometimes being stood up is exactly what leads you to the right people. And sometimes two little girls in matching red dresses are brave enough to ask the question that opens a guarded man's heart to a beautiful, messy, honest kind of love. 6 months after the birthday party, Vincent found himself standing in a place he never imagined he'd be on a Sunday morning, a crowded playground filled with shrieking children, impatient parents, and the faint smell of melted ice cream. Lily and Violet ran ahead of him, their matching braids bouncing, their laughter lighting up the crisp air like bells. He used to spend weekends reviewing contracts, approving designs, and discussing acquisitions. Now he spent them chasing two tiny whirlwinds who could out-negotiate any lawyer he'd ever met. Rebecca arrived a few minutes later, carrying a small lunch bag and looking apologetic. She'd just finished a night shift at 12 exhausting hours at the hospital, but when she saw Vincent waiting with the girls, something in her softened, as if she'd stepped into a place that allowed her to breathe again. "You didn't have to bring them early," she said, brushing a loose strand of hair behind her ear. "I wanted to," Vincent said simply. Rebecca smiled, the kind of smile that made everything inside him feel grounded. Lily tugged on his sleeve. Push us on the wings. Violet grabbed his other hand. Higher than the sky. Vincent laughed. I'm coming. But if you two end up in orbit, it's not my fault. Rebecca sat on a nearby bench, exhaustion pulling at her features. Vincent watched her from a distance, see how she rubbed her eyes, how she leaned back with a quiet sigh, how the morning sun softened the worry lines on her face. He realized he wanted to be the reason those lines faded for good. Later, when the girls ran off to make friends with a little boy building a sandcastle, Vincent sat beside her. You look tired, he said gently. Night shifts, she said with a weary chuckle. Someone didn't want to let their fever go down without a fight. You're incredible, Vincent said. The world is lucky to have you. Rebecca shook her head as if she didn't believe him. I'm just doing my job. No, Vincent said. You're saving lives while raising two daughters who think you hung the moon. That's not just a job. She exhaled slowly, her eyes glistening. Sometimes I feel like I'm failing at all of it. Work, motherhood, life. You're not failing, Vincent said, his voice low and steady. You're doing more than most people do in a lifetime. Rebecca looked at him then, really looked at him, as if seeing him in a new way. And you? The girls adore you. They broken bar attached. His heart warmed. I'm attached too. Rebecca swallowed, her voice soft. That scares me. He reached for her hand, lacing his fingers through hers. It scares me too. A quiet passed between them, not empty or awkward, but full alive with the kind of understanding only two people who had survived disappointment could share. The girls ran back squealing, collapsing onto the bench. Mommy, Vincent pushed us high. We almost touched the sun. Rebecca laughed, pulling them in for a hug. Vincent watched the three of them of this small, imperfect, beautiful world and felt a longing he'd never known before. Not for success, not for status, for them, for this, for a life that wasn't polished and planned but messy and loud and real. Later, at Rebecca's apartment, after the girls fell asleep in a pile of blankets, Vincent and Rebecca stood in the doorway watching them. They love you, Rebecca whispered. He nodded. I love them too. She turned to him, her eyes searching his. And a broken bar me? He took her face gently in his hands. You, he whispered, most of all. Rebecca's breath hitched. I don't want to lose this. You won't, Vincent promised. She leaned into him, resting her forehead against his chest. He held her, feeling her heartbeat through thin layers of fabric, a quiet rhythm that felt like home. When she finally lifted her head, her eyes were warm, soft, believing again. Okay, she whispered. Then let's keep going a broken bar together. Vincent kissed her slow, steady, a promise more than a gesture, and the world outside the tiny apartment seemed to fade away. Here, in this imperfect space filled with children's drawings and scattered toys, he realized something he'd spent years avoiding. This wasn't a distraction, this wasn't an inconvenience. This was a life he wanted to build, a family he wanted to protect, a love he finally felt worthy of. And for the first time in years, his heart didn't feel guarded. It felt full,